Nick Reisner, Director of Innovation and Customer Experience at Simon Property Group, an American real estate investment trust, and the largest owner of shopping malls in the United States. Simon? Nick.
Thank you. Just 1 minute. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Reisner. As Benjamin said, I help lead innovation and customer experience for Simon Property Group. I've been in this role just over a year now, and it's been great to get some exposure to the Israeli tech system through Oren and Yasmin. So I'm grateful to be here and to share a little bit about what we're working on at Simon. So a little background on myself and then Simon, and we'll keep it high level with the slides and then go into some of the areas of opportunity for us. So I'm a previous two-time startup founder myself. I've invented more than 20 patents, spent several years as a management consultant, and worked at Burberry as well. So in this role, I am focused on finding new technology that supports our customers. And when I talk about our customers, that's our shoppers as well as our tenants. And so any new technology, new business model, and new brand that can help support this ecosystem is kind of squarely in my wheelhouse. Simon is the largest retail REIT globally. We're an S&P 100 company with a market cap of nearly 40 billion. We have more than 200 shopping centers in the United States, with another 200 internationally through our network. In the United States, more than 200 million people live within our trade areas. And we have, kind of an extensive investment portfolio beyond, just our real estate as well. We have joint ventures with Authentic Brands Group, and we own a portfolio of brands with them called Spark, which holds Reebok, Brooks Brothers, Forever 21, and several other brands. Separately, we own JCPenney with Brookfield. We have a joint venture with Rue Gilt Group, who helps run our Shop Premium Outlets marketplace, and Jamestown Real Estate, as well as many others. So you can see, some of the stats that I mentioned here. This is a bit outdated. We have more than 18 million kind of loyalty members now. And as I mentioned, more than 2 billion shopper visits a year in the US. Some of the key things that we like to talk about are, the value of brick and mortar. And I think a lot of people have seen that over the past year with the changing, digital customer acquisition landscape and privacy concerns. And so not only does having a brick and mortar store increase your overall website traffic, it's also it reduces returns and is 60% better from a study that we found, than shopping solely online. So we kind of firmly believe that the future is a combination of physical and digital. Here, this slide kind of highlights our broad network. So these are kind of our core tenants: shop, live, work, stay, play. We have relationships with more than 3,000 retailers. We have unique concepts on our properties, including Lifetime Fitness and Whole Foods and Orange Theory and many others. On the hotel side, we've just opened a Nobu Hotel and Restaurant in Atlanta. We work closely with Marriott and some other hotel groups. And then you can see some of the other groups. For the largest franchisee of Starbucks, and we've made some investments in Soho Works and Lifetime and others. So as I mentioned at the bottom, you can kind of see our retail partners as well. So not only are we a real estate company and a retailer, but we've also made about 40 investments as strategic partners for startups. And as a previous founder, I try to take a very founder-centric point of view in helping startups navigate working with a large corporation, helping them connect with the right stakeholders, launch a pilot or proof of value, and then scale accordingly. Now I'll kind of highlight some of the main wins and biggest successes that we've had over the past year or so, and then I'll dive into some of our key areas of focus going forward. So recently we invested in a fintech called Cardless, and we launched a co-branded credit card with them. And by using this credit card, shoppers will get 3% back on any purchase at a Simon Mall. They'll get 5% back at our owned retailers, as I mentioned, and they'll get 1% back on all other purchases. So this is kind of leaning into one of our core themes that I'll get to, which is loyalty and customer data. So as you can imagine, and as has already been discussed today, it's hard for a landlord to have that direct relationship with customers, and so this is one of the efforts to get closer there. Another investment that we've made is in Leap. Leap is a platform that allows direct-to-consumer brands to open stores. So we've invested in them and are opening clusters of stores with Leap. And so if you're a smaller direct-to-consumer brand, you can actually go to Leap and essentially just show up with your inventory, and they will take the lease and staff the store and everything else. And so it's a great way to test out brick and mortar for smaller companies. Another investment is in Verishop, which is a marketplace which helps us discover new brands and helps funnel new customers to Simon through these new brands. Those are just a couple of the investments we've made. We've made, as I mentioned, dozens of investments, and we are focusing on kind of a broad range of technologies and companies that can support our ecosystem. So outside of those, we have done several in food and beverage and health tech and more. As we kind of see the mall evolve, all of these things are going to be necessary to have in our centers. Quickly want to touch on some of the key focus areas for us. The first, which I kind of alluded to, is loyalty and customer data. So anything that we can do to get closer to our customers, learn more about our customers, and help use that data to provide them with a better experience or bring the right tenants into the malls is very valuable to us. So any startups that are in that space, obviously love to speak with them. The second major bucket for us is omni-channel, kind of a broad bucket that focuses on all of the activities kind of around the mall. So we work with Fillogic currently to offer final mile fulfillment, store-based fulfillment, returns, reverse logistics, and B2B distribution. We work with Happy Returns to accept returns on our centers, and similarly, we work with Narvar to do the same. Drop It is a company that we work with that allows bagless shopping for our customers, and so really anything in this kind of last mile, final mile returns, customer experience, curbside, buy online, pick up in store is going to be really important. This year, we're also focusing on developing and expanding our retail media network. We've long sold out-of-home and digital out-of-home advertising, but now this is becoming more sophisticated, and once again with the omni-channel theme, connecting online and offline, meeting shoppers wherever they're at. The next one is Simon Search. So this is an initiative that we've launched recently with retailers in our malls to help discover new products. So we have more than 50 retailers that we're already working with. We have direct inventory feeds from them. So when a shopper is either at home and planning their visit, or they're in our malls, they can actually search for product that's available in the location that they're at. And so far that's been going really well. We've been averaging, it's already our second most used feature on our website, and we're seeing a lot of growth in this area. Over the holidays, well over 1 million searches, per month. And so that was just launched in September last year. So great results on that so far. So anything that can help with product discovery, search, anything in that realm is very interesting. And then our bucket for kind of other is, kind of all of the other technologies that we've, touched on a little bit today through some of the other speakers, which include live stream shopping, which we've tested out at some of our properties already, augmented reality, which we have a couple of projects that we're working on currently. We did some basic testing last year with filters and things like that, but we're looking to build on that and integrate it more into the core shopping experience. Web3 and metaverse, this is one of those that has ebbed and flowed a bit with us, but is something that is of interest in continuing to learn more about and explore. And then artificial intelligence. So this is an area where we think this is going to help with marketing, and again, like was mentioned earlier, be a force multiplier for us. So a couple quick points just on how startups can work with Simon successfully. The first thing that is going to excite us and our leadership is helping us generate additional revenue. That's always going to be something that's a needle mover for us. Others are helping provide clear value or service to our customers and brands, and then create efficiencies to support our teams, whether that's our corporate team or the teams that are kind of on the ground at each of our shopping malls. Startups again have success with us when they provide value. They can understand our speed. We can often be kind of slow, and then can scale across our portfolio. So I will stop there. I'll put my email in the chat, and if anyone would like to connect, please feel free to reach out to me directly.
Thank you, Nick Riesner. Well, we move now to Joe Hickson, Head of Labs at Tesco Technology and Group Innovation. Joe couldn't be here with us today, but she sent us a video to share with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Hickson. I head the Innovation Lab in Tesco Technology, which is a team that does R&D for our technology function, and is essentially a team that's been operating for more than 10 years. So it is a fantastic resource to be able to go from innovation idea to execution as fast as we possibly can. I am also part of Group Innovation, which is a fairly new team that was formed to look at strategic innovation opportunities for Tesco, and reports it directly into our executives. So the two roles keep me very busy. And just a little bit about Tesco as a business. I'm sure many of you know Tesco, but we are a multinational retailer. We have around 350,000 colleagues, employees. And we're about serving customers every day with affordable, healthy and sustainable food. And in terms of focus areas, we have some relatively new strategic priorities that help us focus on what's important. And they're in 4 subsections. So the first one is all about magnetic value for customers. Obviously, it's a very competitive space. So magnetic value is really about the combination of price, quality, range, and customer experience to bring customers back to us, that magnetism that keeps customers coming back to us. The reliable value that removes customers' needs to shop elsewhere. The next one is called I Love My Tesco Club Card. More than 20,000 households have a club card, and going forwards, our plan is to make greater use of the insight we get from so many customers using that card every time they shop to make the experience more personalised and more relevant. Combining Club Card with our online grocery business, our 9 million regular users there can leverage the capability offered by our data science arm that's called dunnhumby. You might have heard of dunnhumby. And we have the opportunity to create additional value and increase loyalty through that unique combination. The next one, the third one, is easily the most convenient. I think it says it all really, which is to be convenient now means serving customers wherever they want to be served. and however they want to be served. We can do that better than anyone by leveraging our existing reach, our scale, and our strong network. And then the last one is save to invest. This gives us the fuel to invest in new priorities and to offset inflationary pressures, which of course we're all feeling now. So we are continuing our long-standing approach of being a simple, agile, and productive business. And we want to make sure that we're only spending money where we really need to. The next thing is really about strategy in integrating innovation. And I think this is really worth touching on at an event like this, because we do have a well-developed process to go from initial evaluation through to a live experiment, and then on to a larger trial with the goal of embedding innovation in business as usual. We have a global network of VCs and other innovation partners who make sure that we're seeing the most relevant startups that offer something relevant to Tesco and who are keen to work with us, obviously. From our experience, we can work with any kind of startup of any stage of maturity, as long as there's a solution that's relevant to our problem spaces so that we can move forward together. And our aim is to be good innovation partners. Collaboration works both ways. We provide a problem statement brief to our VC network around 2 to 3 times a year, and that really helps us focus on what we're particularly interested to find. And in terms of startup successes, the Startup Nation is particularly lucrative in terms of finding notable successes, I think due to the proximity to the UK, and of course the innovation mindset of Israelis means that it's key to unlocking innovation potential for the future. Many of you will know that we work with Trigo to develop GetGo, our frictionless shopping solution. And more recently, we've just started to explore a solution to supply chain efficiency gains, and that's with another Israeli startup. So watch this space on news on who that is.
Okay, well, thank you very much to Joe Hickson. The mic goes now to Mandeep Bhatia, the VP of Global Digital Product and Omnichannel Innovation at global luxury fashion holding company Tapestry, which includes leading brands such as Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman. Mandeep, the mic's yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I'll share my presentation. Just going to keep it simple. You already introduced Tapestry is a leading house of brands. We provide a common platform to our iconic brands, Coach, Stuart, and Kate Spade, for their digital and tech, other shared services as well. But I hope that helps. Feel free to basically ask questions as we go through this. The second one is, what are the primary topics of concern and strategies that are most relevant to our organization? I think the main thing, which a common theme that you're seeing from everyone, is elevating the customer experience. How do you provide a delightful customer experience, which is on brand, especially because we have 3 brands. And so how do you keep it on brand to all our customers at all touch points, whether it is in store, on social, online, and exceed their expectations. So what does that translate to? Seamless and continuous omnichannel experience, personalizing their customer journey based on consumer insights, trends, and their data. That's pretty important for us. Enhancing their product discovery, making it easier for them so that they can find products that they're looking for to support their purchase mission. Somebody is there looking for a gift. Somebody wants to buy something for themselves. Elevate the experience through brand and product storytelling so that we can build confidence in their purchase. And then finally, adapt the experience based on their behavior. So those are the primary challenges, right? Not so much focused right now on convenience or some of those other things, because focus is important, and this is where our focus is. So then, what characterizes the startups that have highest probability of collaborating with us. I think innovative solutions that can help us meet or exceed our customer expectations, some that are laid out. Technology has to be significantly better or cheaper than incumbents, because we are not going to continuously re-platform if the solution is about the same as what we already have. Another is seamless integration with our tech stack. We have a progressive web app, headless commerce. We have also Salesforce, so technologies that can work seamlessly with us. And then players who are willing to put skin in the game and their openness to test and learn. Because a lot of times, you would do a POC, it would not work. You have to continue to iterate. And the players who have the flexibility, adaptability, and persistence to play with us in that, where we can align on our success criteria and continue to move towards that becomes the most important thing. So that, in a nutshell, is what we are looking for. Some of the folks asked us, what are some of the success stories? We actually did a champion challenge recently, more in the buying experience space on fraud management with Foter, which is an Israeli company, and another player. And we continue to evolve our experience with them, iron out the issues, and they met all of the same criteria that I just mentioned here. They were willing to do a POC, a pilot. They were flexible. Their solution was significantly better. So that was a recent success story. And another success story, actually, which didn't work, but another company from Israel where we were trying to test a community solution, and they exhibited all of the same attributes that I just talked about. So that's it. I hope simple and sweet. And that's all I got, Oren and Yasmin.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, thank you so very much, Mandeep Bhatia. We're joined now by Netta Li Meiri, Chief of Global Tech Innovation at the Strauss Group, one of Israel's largest food product manufacturers.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to some of you all over the world. My name is Natalie Meiri, and I'm the Chief of Global Tech Innovation at Strauss Group. Just a minute, I'm just uploading my presentation. I hope you'll see it well. Yeah, all right. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. So a little bit about Strauss. Strauss is the largest Israeli international food and beverage company. We're operating in over 20 countries worldwide, including the United States, Eastern Europe, Australia, New Zealand, China, UK, and many others. And we have over 30 countries in which we have production plants. We work very heavily, and we're comprised of 4 different companies. One of them is Strauss Water, which is our water bar company. It is split between Strauss Water Israel and Strauss Water Global, in which we're operating mostly in the UK and China. We also have Sabra, which is a joint venture between PepsiCo and Strauss Group. It's a hummus and spreadings company, mostly deployed in the US, but also in other countries in Europe and in Australia. We have Strauss Israel, which is limited to the Israeli geography. That includes confectionery and salty business, Strauss Frito-Lay. It's also a joint venture between PepsiCo and Strauss. Honey company, dairy business, and many others. And the 4th one is our global coffee company, and we're actually the largest coffee player in Brazil. So we're very widespread all over the world. A little bit of our main motivation to establish the IT innovation here in Israel, which is the activity that I lead for the last year. It was established in March 2022. We want to utilize Israel's capabilities as the startup nation. We want to enjoy the fact that we're based here in Israel in order to promote innovation throughout all of our business units, which I will also further explain in a minute. We do have a very local aside global brand, so we can utilize it also. That on one hand, we're very local, we're very globally spread, but on the other hand, the communication is being held here in Israel. The budget is here, the headquarters are here. All of the people that we need to talk to are mostly here. So I do think that it will allow us to shorten the SLA. Of course, we want to create a sustainable competitive advantage for us by leveraging emerging technologies. And our claim to fame is that for the first time at Strauss Group, we're promoting a non-food innovation versus our food tech innovation, which is very well known through our kitchen incubator, which is supported by the Israeli Innovation Authority. So we're focusing, and I will further elaborate about this, but on cybersecurity, on new business models, operations, logistics, and many more. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. And it is very important for us also to strengthen our partnerships with global partners such as PepsiCo, Danone, Virgin Pure, Virgin Hire, and many others that we're working with through technology and joint ventures that we can create together. So our IT innovation is divided into three main pieces. I will mostly elaborate about the open innovation piece because it is the one relevant for startups. So we have the open innovation practice. We have the entrepreneurship, the internal entrepreneurship program for employees that will generate ideas, and by that we will go and implement that. And the third one is the digital factory, our internal R&D center that will allow us to further develop the ideas generated by employees as part of the entrepreneurship activity. So a little bit about open innovation. We usually do scouting with two different approaches. One is the bottom up and the other one is the top down. The top down means that we are predefining needs with the business units or organizational functions. We have to have strategic planning with them, and then we embed innovation within. So it's actually a very broad collaboration between innovation managers, business units, and IT leaders. And the bottom-up approach is what we call appetite comes with eating. We have, as innovation managers, full discretion based on our communications and our relationships with the entrepreneurial ecosystem, such as venture capitalists, accelerators, incubators, tech transfer officers, and so on and so forth, to suggest ideas that we also see among our either competitors or equivalents or any other CPG retailers and other companies that we've been in touch with, and maybe also to see whether they could be a good fit for us. And by that we're mapping solutions with the different units and organizational functions. I will skip the entrepreneurship because I think that I would take the next 5 minutes to deep dive a little bit into what we're mostly looking for. And also feel free to have comments. I know that we're very time sensitive, so I'll do it as quick as possible. This year, we decided to focus very heavily on top of cybersecurity and other organizational functions needs on operations and supply chain. These two aspects have been significantly rising now because of all the changes that we're experiencing both at Strauss Group, but also in terms of our global changes all across the board with macroeconomics problems and the fact that supply chain has been significantly more expensive than used to be. So we're also taking all these things into consideration. We are reporting as IT innovation to the CIO, who's reporting to the Deputy CEO of Strauss Group. And he has been recently appointed as COO, which means that the logistics and operations are also a big chunk of his day-to-day work. And this is one of the things that also allow us to do a better buy-in within the company. So we will have better and higher budget and resources for implementing innovation in these fields. So of course, as we know in innovation, a lot of great initiatives rise and fall based on capacity, timing, resources, and budget. So in this case, we do have secure budget and then a lot of wiggle room and the ability to test and learn of relevant experience in these domains. So I will say that in operations, we're mostly looking for startups and solutions, technological solutions in general, in the fields of autonomous logistics centers. We want to have more and more automation in these domains. We want to see more robotics. We want to see more hands-free and people-free and seamless experiences for our employees, and less and really less time and labor costs that will be paid for these use cases that we see more and more companies implementing full automation. On top of that, operations, we are putting very heavily looking to improve our food safety and food quality processes. A lot of these things are now being motivated through automation, and we are looking forward to expand our knowledge in these cases of how do we reduce the food waste, how do we reduce in general waste, how do we make ourselves greener. We do have a big sustainability department. Strauss is considered as one of the most sustainability friendly companies in Israel, and we were recently rated as Platinum Plus company of Ma'ala, the ones who are Israeli would know organization, and we are looking forward to continuing our journey to making ourselves greener and more sustainable. So we are also looking in more on technologies that would allow us to do that. I can even say talk about an example of a company that we recently finished a successful pilot, and we will proceed of solar panels on top of rooftops of trucks. So it allowed us to save approximately 3.5% of our fuel consumption of solar. And of course, that the ROI would be less than 3 years, which is very significant for us, because for us, even 3 to 4% of cost reduction is very, very significant when it comes to our fleet management and our truck fleet management, as we have over 200 trucks. So in our logistics center, so it is very significant for us. So mostly in the operations and the logistics, we're looking in these solutions. Traceability, that is very, very important for us, both to see whether the final products have arrived to our usually retailers. So to make sure that the food chain, which ends for us within the retailer's premises, is fully completed. So this is one of the things that we are also exploring now. And on top of that, we're very, very, very happy to hear about additional solutions. I will say that, of course, on top of that, we have the regular fields that we're also looking forward to cover broadly this year. So marketing, we all know the tension between retailers and CPGs, friends and foes, we can call it this way, because of course that the retailers have a lot of data on us. We cannot say that it's neutral. So a lot of the platforms today allow more visibility for CPG companies of the traction and sales and consumer insights and preferences that we really want to get to know our consumers better, because we do feel like that there is that we do have a middleman that is very, very important. And as we see more and more private labels rise of the retailers, of course, it allows us to even know less about our consumers. So solutions in terms of consumer insights and how can we better and directly interact with our consumers would also be highly appreciated. We also have more, we can call it enterprise applications and software, general software for companies that we're always looking for, like cybersecurity, HR, and these functions. I don't think that's the right form, because you're much more dedicated to retail and CPGs. So these are the topics. I think that I just completed my 10 minutes. So Yasmin, and Benjamin, let me know if there's anything else I can contribute to the discussion.
No, I think that's perfect actually so far. Thanks so very much, Natalie Meire. We're joined now by Ariella Rodstein, co-lead at ICA, one of Sweden's largest grocery chain stores. And she also couldn't be here today, so she sent in a video.
The best way to predict the future is to invent it. I like this saying. It is simply put, and even though we are an innovation hub, we are not a crystal ball. We are here to experiment, test, learn, and invent the future. Hi, it's really nice to be here, to be at this event, Retail Innovation Club. My name is Ariella, and I'm here representing the Innovation Hub of ICA Sweden. I will give you a bit more context to what ICA is. But I'm a part of running the Innovation Hub at the ICA Group, also part of building, reshaping, and continuously developing our hub. And looking back at my career, I noticed that I'm drawn to a situation where you can't say, we have done this before. So I find myself really in the right place at the moment. But why really an innovation hub at ICA? So just to get you a bit of feeling of what ICA is, we are a group of companies. We are a food retailer, which is the biggest one in Sweden. We have around 1,300 stores, and all of the stores are driven by their own shop owners in cooperation. And that it's almost like a franchise, but even I would say a step further in their own ownership of the stores. So that's the food part. We have a pharmacy, we have a bank and insurance company, real estate company. We also have business in the Baltics under the brand RIC, which is also a food retailer there. And we're around 23,000 employees at ICA and have over $13 billion turnover. So that just gives you a sense about the group's company. And really, I mean, we have been, especially the ICA food retailer part, has been successful over 100 years. And of course, we need to make sure that we continue to be successful coming 100 years. And that was a bit about the background. Why really an innovation hub? And the only thing we know is that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But just thinking of, when we only see robots in the stores, I mean, we already see that in the warehouses. When you just need to take a pill instead of eating a full meal, when the drones are delivering the food, when we have vertical farmings, how will that affect the shopping of produce? When you use a voice assistant to do your shopping, or you don't need an assistant at all, how will that affect our business and our game plan for ICA? That was really the basic why we thought that we need an innovation hub to be able to keep up with the tech, the speed, and finding the right ecosystem to actually facing all the complex problems within the future. So we are here, our purpose is actually within the ICA group to explore, experiment, and create the future business of ICA. And we say, if we look at all of our companies, I mean, they're in a mode and they have the goal to optimize, to make every day a bit better. But we are here to try to extend the business. And of course, our ambition is to actually transform, but that's a really tough assignment, but we're getting there slowly but surely. And when we're working, we say that we're working with 3 pillars. We have the research part where we do a lot of research, marketing understanding inside of the customers and really try to understand what is the problem. And then, to find the right solution for that problem. And we can do that in terms of project that we develop ourselves internally, but also to develop things together in partnership with others. Startups and other entities that could be useful for making progress in different areas. So what are we working with? So we are both working with product and services to the end consumer, but also with ICA's underlying processes. So to give you some examples, I have 4 examples that I chose out today that we have done during these 5 years at the Innovation Hub, and it's both examples of our own developed products, but also services that we launched in partnership with others. And you will also find out that some of these are success stories and some of these are more failures. But let's start with Monica here up in the left corner for me anyway. But Monica is a voice assistant that we developed. That was actually our first launch within the hub. And it's a voice assistant that we launched in 2018. And it was when Google came with a voice platform in Swedish. So we was actually the first company in Sweden that launched a voice assistant. And it's all about how you can make it easier to order your food. You can add and take away from your buying list. And we had made a lot of research and saw that in the US, 50% of the market were using voice assistants. But then after a few years, we saw that it never took off in Sweden as it did in the US. So actually, I think it was now 2 years ago, we shut it down. But a lot of learnings, and we built our voice capabilities. So when it will take off, we have a much better understanding and we have a voice platform to actually start building from. Wasteless Store is another project that we did, and we did that together with a startup. And it's really, we had a common goal with the startup and us that we want to reduce waste in our food waste in our stores. And the startup had a start of a solution, not already full developed, but pretty far taken. Which was an AI tool that actually gives you real-time recommendation for the store personnel, how to act in order to reduce waste. So we have piloted this, developed it further, did some adjustment to really see how it could scale within our context, within our store context. And we are now this spring launching it and scaling it. And we see from our pilot stores that it could reduce waste up till 40%. So that's an example of working together with another part that has already a great solution, but we strive for the same goal. ICA to go is an example, very successful example, I would say, that we developed ourselves, of course, with inspiration from others. But it is a concept for stores in the more far out, the suburbs, on the countryside that has a hard, it's hard for them to have long opening hours because it costs too much with all the personnel. Because in Sweden, it's really a big cost with personnel in stores. So here it's an unmanned store that makes the store prolong their hours. And it's a technical solution that you identify yourself and then the door will open. You enter the store, you scan the products with your mobile and you do the self-checkout payment. And then when the payment is done, the door will open. And that makes you prolong the hours. You give a bit better service for your customer in your area, and it actually creates a win-win for everyone in the society. We have got great feedback from it, and now we're already launching our 30th store. So that's actually it started off as an innovation product. We incubated and now we're scaling it and really growing a business out of it. And then the last example was a work we did with our insurance company. And that was also with a partner startup that had a technical solution that was a really important piece for us to launch this. And the insurance wallet, we call it, is a way of actually find out what kind of insurances you have, and then we match it and offer other insurances that we have from ICA if it's suitable for you and if we think it's better for you. And the technical solution that we needed and from the startup is really getting the information from other insurance company, what insurance you actually have, and be able to compare it. But we built the UX, the customer interface, and actually designed how the service should be towards the customers. Also didn't turn out as good as we thought, but I think it still has potential if we put in some love and effort into it. But these are 4 examples of both in collaboration with startups, but also self-developed products. And just to look a bit into the future, what we're aiming for, we are looking a lot into, of course, the space of the future, the store space of the future, what that could mean. And it's really in 2 dimensions. One is super efficiency. How can we make things better? Both the efficiency part, how you work in the stores, but also for the customers. And the sustainability part. We're focusing a lot now also impact projects, but also with business potentials. So that's really interesting, and especially in terms of the food system and what we need to change in the food system to be able to be a sustainable in that. Just to summarize or to finalize this presentation, one learning with working at an innovation hub, I think, is that the best thing about working with innovation is that you can't fail, because everything can be packaged as a learning. And I think that's a really important message, that, you know, some things doesn't take off in the market as you think, but you learn a lot. And if you can use those learnings and build stronger capabilities from it, then you can really use it further also in the upcoming innovation project. Thank you so much for listening, and please reach out to me and ask questions, or if you have any ideas or think that you have a good idea or solution for us, feel free to contact me.
Wonderful. Well, that was Ariella Rothstein, of course, from ICA. This concludes the first part of the Innovator Forum. Thanks to all those who presented so far, and we move on now to our guest speakers. Now, the first person we welcome is Ohad Finkelstein, founder and managing partner of Dunley Capital, a family office company. Ohad has an extensive background in the finance, technology, retail, and telecommunication industries, as well as in developing new companies, markets, and products globally. His career spans over 4 continents and is truly international in scope of business and experience. Today, he focuses on braving the chill, strategies for startup success during winter months. I'm also welcoming Olin Paran, who will be joining Ohad for the next session.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Ohad.
As you were told, my name is Ohad Finkelstein, and I'm actually going to talk about to discuss the unpleasant stuff that is going on in the world today, and to get to some kind of a historical perspective and some conclusions about how to survive the nuclear winter, which we are experiencing as we go along today. In fact, I went back to all the financial crises of my career. And as you can see from the picture or the video, I am not 20. And the first crisis that I've been in my career was the saving and loan crisis in the United States in 1984. This was a subprime crisis without the steroids that came to bite us all in 2008 and 2009. And then the bubble burst, and then 9/11, and then the global meltdown of 2008 and 2009. And this is by far, this crisis is worse than all of them, because all the other crises had one thing in common. They were purely financial crises. And somebody gave a loan to somebody who couldn't repay it, somebody packaged the wrong thing. All the other crises were financial. And when you have a purely financial crisis, you have tools, financial tools, to deal with it. And on average, each one of the crises that I went through in my career, it took about a year to a year and a half, and the market flew and never looked back. This crisis has 3 elements that has nothing to do with finance. Each one of them can be catastrophic. Each one of them adds to the unstabilizing condition that we have in the market. And each one of them can become a major crisis of its own, from easy to hard. The post-corona crisis, the post-COVID crisis, we don't know really how the world is behaving yet. We're too close to the event. We don't have employees. People don't want to work from the office. Things are changing, and we don't have the perspective yet, the historical perspective, to understand how deep this change is, and if it's temporary or semi-temporary or will stay with us forever. The second is the trade war between the US and China. This is a big factor, a big vector. And the third, of course, is the worst. It's the worst in the war in Ukraine, which affects everything from wheat to grain to supply chains to everything. And each one of them, and not to mention the combination of them, can create the perfect storm. And so the plus we're coming out of an age where for 30 years, so it's not a bubble, it's a lifetime, the rules of the economy were rewritten all over again, meaning that if one of the Nobelists, or all of them, the economy Nobelists, the Myriad Keynes, Milton Friedman, John Adams would have resurrected from the grave today, they wouldn't understand how the world was working for 30 years without inflation, unemployment, and without interest rate. And that created the party that we all celebrated until it ended a few months ago, or almost a year ago, because we didn't have interest rates, so there was no point of keeping the money in the bank. And so money is like water, it has to flow somewhere. So people started investing in everything other than in banks, because there was no, again, interest rate. And so they invested in the entrepreneur. And then they invested in the VC that invested in the entrepreneur. And then they invested in the PE that invested in the VC that invested in the entrepreneur. And then the hedge fund that invested in, and so on and so forth. And when we finished all this chain, we still had money. So we invented things like digital art. What the heck? I mean, they will write books about that. How stupid could we be? But the main cause was that there was no inflation, and therefore there was no interest rate. And now we are, so to speak, unfortunately, back to normal, and the free money era is over. And getting off the drug is very, very, very painful. And that's exactly what we are experiencing now. We are experiencing the rehabilitation stage where we're still shaking and shivering. And so, what do we do? What are the perspectives for this crisis, and how long, if I may be so stupid to predict, how long would it take, and what should we do as startups in this unstable days today? One, we are not even in the we didn't hit bottom yet, meaning that there is still a lot of excess money in the market, not knowing what to do, because two things happened. One, we have inflation, but the interest rate is not attractive enough for investors to take the money and put it in the bank. But that's very strange. That's also freezing the market, because everybody is sitting on the fence right now and waiting to find out what is this magic number that we all collectively will find out one day too late. What is the number, the magic number that from that point, all the money in the free markets will be sucked into banks and to bank saving accounts. And we're not inventing anything. There was a time that banks were really, really, really very sexy and appealing to investors to put their money in. I remember when I went to open my first saving account with my wife in Los Angeles about 100 years ago, we saved, my wife and I, about $1,000 together. And we went to deposit it in a saving account. And we didn't ask, I didn't even know what to ask for. We received 10% interest rate. I remember saying to my wife that if we work very hard all our lives and save $1 million, we would be able to live from the interest rate, because $100,000 looked to me, unreachable. This is like a dream. Nobody wants to go back to those numbers. Nobody wants to go back because those numbers suggest a very high inflation. And we don't want to get there. We're also experiencing a whole level of C-level, of CEOs and VPs and directors and chief operating officers that have not lived one day under inflation, that do not really understand, do not really grasp the psychology of inflation. And this is not over yet. Inflation is here with us to stay with us, and each and every one of us, whether you are a CEO of a company, whether you are founder of a small company, or managing a huge company, you would need to actually address the issue that in the next foreseeable future, cost of life will always increase, and you will have to run faster and faster to stay on the same place that you began with. So, if you look at this crisis separately, and you have those three vectors which are looming at the back, like clouds over our heads, how long would it take? Well, nobody knows how long it would take, but right now, I think that in the next year and a half, we're going to continue being in this crisis, and the worst is still ahead of us, unfortunately. I will actually end my comments with a positive note, so bear with me. Together with SVB and Signature Bank, and there is a whole list of American banks which are teetering on collapsing, we are not really before or even the end. This is not the beginning of the end. This is the end maybe of the beginning of this crisis. And so what do we need to do as a startup? If you possibly can, do two things. One, try and see that you have at least 2 years of oxygen, of money to survive. You can't really predict more than 2 years out, but try to see what you can do, whether you need to downstream, whether you need to reorganize your company, restructure, and so on. See if you can actually survive for 2 years. If you can't survive for 2 years, via reverse engineering, see how can you survive for 18 months? Can you survive for 12 months? And by all means, try to avoid raising money right now. Nobody invests. The market is freezing. Completely, it's frozen. Nobody invests. Everybody is sitting on the fence waiting for this magic number that I spoke with. There is no pressure from LPs on GPs to invest in VCs. Nobody invests. Here and there you hear a company that was able to raise money, or a company that was M&A'd or bought by another company, but that's not the rule. That's the one-off kind of thing. So rule number one, like we did in Corona, by the way, we're not reinventing anything. Rule number one, try and get yourself to 2 years of finance. And if you don't, see how much you can stretch it as much as you want without, really damaging the bones. The second thing, if you can avoid the next 6 months until the end of the summer, at least, if not the end of the autumn, if you can avoid raising money, there's simply no point. It's too much energy. And even when you get a term sheet, it's not a nice term sheet, because people know that you need money, that the opportunities, unlike before, are not there, and the term sheet reflects that kind of reality, unfortunately. I wanted to make sure that I also cover another thing. I want to end up with 2 positive kind of comments, not negative comments. I'll talk about Israel in the end as a comment, but in terms of the world. There is a case to claim that this is the best time to invest. And this is the best time to be a startup. I went back to all the financial crises in modern history. I went back up all the way down to 1875. Why 1875? Because rule of thumb, kind of a finger in the wind, 1875 is what is considered to be the beginning of modern finance and banking systems as we know it today. And in 1875, the Vienna Stock Exchange collapsed. Now, this is not Vienna of today, Austria of today. This is the Habsburg Empire, Austro-Hungary. So the collapse of the Vienna Stock Exchange was a major international event. And that started what the people of the time called the Very Long Depression. For about 15 years, starting from 1875, the indexes didn't move up or down. They just were more or less flat, 20 points up, 20 points down, but flat. And this was the longest depression in history to date. So then I went and looked and said, okay, what was invented in the last quarter of the 19th century? And it's almost the entire 20th century. Everything was invented in the last 25 years of the 19th century. The escalators, the revolving doors, the pneumatic tire, the car, the light, Edison, the camera, Kodak. And if you push it 3 years into 1903, the airplane. And when I look back at all at the last quarter of the 19th century, which corporations were incorporated, again, it's the entire 20th century. It's Maytag and Johnson & Johnson and AT&T and Kodak and so on and so forth. Fast forward to the Great Depression of the mid-30s, in the 1930s, the same. HP, started United Airways, and so on and so forth. There were so many companies. In fact, in Bill Hewlett from HP, the H in HP, memoirs, he says that he had the idea for a voice oscillator, sound oscillator, which was the first product of HP, already in the 1920s. But he was, as he call it, he was enjoying the greenhouse effect. He was a young man with a young family. He had a job, a salary, a mortgage to pay. Only when he was fired in 1932, and Packard was fired in 1934, and they could not find work, according to Bill Hewlett memoirs, and they could not find a job, and they had nothing else to lose, they joined forces, created HP, and history was changed. And if you go all the way to the last crisis that we all remember, the 2001, the bubble burst, Google, Amazon, all coming from that crisis. So there is a case to build to say that this is right now the time, the real time to invest, because the best innovations will come out of this crisis, which will mature in 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, or 15 years from now. Last but not least, I want to talk about Israel, because I think Israel is a little bit different, at least for now, a different situation than the rest of the world. We are in a little bit better situation. Israel has 5 or 6 growth engines that are not related necessarily to the world at this point. And I'm quantifying it at this point, meaning with what we are going through in Israel in terms of the political side. But we have, the first growth engine is tech. And it's not only high tech, by the way, it's low tech, it's mid tech and high tech. It created here layers of new millionaires, but all of them has 2 things in common. They pay taxes in Israel, and they recycle the money. They invest in new companies and in new technologies and in new ideas and so on. The second growth engine is the gas. We are a gas empire today, and we are we have the ability and the facility within a few years to at least help Europe within 20% of their gas needs in European scale. The third engine is the Abraham Agreements, which we're only starting now to scratch with our finger. This is an Everest that we need to climb on, but it seems to be like a real peace and a warm peace. The fourth or the fifth engine is, well, let's face it, the world always needed and wanted innovation, and Israel will always be able to provide the world with innovation. This is our core, the Jewish genome. The next core growth engine is we are a rich country, a very rich country. We have $230-some billion in foreign currency reserves, and we can do a lot of stuff with it. We just need to know what to do with it, but we have a lot of money in the bank. Last but not least, Israel is going to be perhaps the only country in the world that in the 21st century will double or even triple its population. Now, it's also suggests some problems, but the good news about growing the population of such a growth of population is that we, in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we will need more from everything, more from computers, more from eyeglasses, more from bread, more cars, more roads, more everything. And there is a reason why Japan is being where it is, or why Finland and other countries that don't have this kind of growth are suffering. And we, on the other hand, are growing. Last but not least, and that's something that can overshadow everything I said, we have, until now, I was able to say that the last growth engine is political and financial stability that creates the background, the background and the foundation for a stable, growing economy. And that's a bit questionable right now in Israel, but I won't address that stuff. I don't want to go into politics. So Israel, in a way, we're a little bit in a different situation than than the rest of the world. Our growth engines will continue to grow. And we are hopefully will be able to find our way out of this crisis a little bit sooner than the rest of the world, because we have a very good investment community and investment mentality in Israel. We are not afraid of taking risks. We know what to do in uncertainties. We feel okay. And so in those cases, and on the pure business, without putting, again, inserting the politics, we are in a good shape. I was flagged that my time is over, so I don't know if you want to continue or you want to ask questions or.
Thank you, Ohad. Yeah, we are just about of time, but it was super interesting as always. And I hope the startups knows what to do right now and how can they cross this period of time. And anyway, as always, I'm sure that you will be happy to get some connections or anyone have some questions to you. Am I right?
Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Ohad. Yeah.
Perfect.
Anything you wanted to add to that?
Pardon?
No, I thought you wanted to add something. Sorry, I just cut you short.
No, I'm open to any questions or any.
Okay.
Great. So thank you very much, Ohad. And as always, and if there's anyone who would like to dig in further and ask Ohad a little bit more, so we're here for you. Thank you very much. And Benny, hand it over to you.
Yeah, well, super interesting insights there. Thank you very much, Ohad. Next up is Aaron Bollig, managing partner at Comcap, a unique boutique investment bank focused on the intersection between commerce and capital, for a market overview on retail tech M&A and financing.
Thank you. And this is Carlos Gonzalez Flores. So I'm a colleague of Aaron. So Aaron, unfortunately, is on a flight. His flight got delayed, so he won't be joining us, but I'll cover our presentation. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So just to provide you with more context, so I'm a director at Comcap. I cover all of our European engagements, as well as our Israel coverage. And I've been an investment banker for 15 years. 10 of those years with Aaron. And in terms of what we do, so we help companies raise capital, and we assist private and public enterprises with M&A advisory. So we don't buy side, sell side. I think for relevant to Israel. So we sold Border-Free, which is an e-commerce platform to Globally last year for about 100 million. So that's relevant to this discussion. But we primarily work with North American and European companies. We've started paying more attention to Israeli startups, given their just the presence that they have across markets. Okay. So in the slides that follow, so we put together some charts on recent M&A and financing rounds. Okay, so the focus of the presentation is investments by US and European strategics and investors into Israeli startups. Okay. So touching a little bit on some of the trends that Ohad covered. So we look at what happened in 2022 and then what we see for 2023. I think some of this will be a repeat from previous speaker, but hopefully that will confirm our views. So in 2022 we saw recession fears, which created investor risk appetite. So we saw growth investors taking a step back or a break and not deploying the capital that we had seen in 2021 and prior to COVID. So this was mainly driven by inflation or the interest rates hikes, right? So goodbye to the cheap cost of capital. And then along the same lines, we saw valuation corrections. So public markets, starting coming down, and that translated to lower multiples for private companies. Okay, similar to what Ohad mentioned. And then for 2023, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, during the conversations with strategics and investors are, three major themes. One of them is focus on efficiency. So focus on the rule of 40, which means that a company's growth and profitability should equal 40%, or should be at least 40% or more. So similar to what we saw in COVID, where growth at all costs is not a priority. We see investors and acquirers pay more attention to profitable companies, or at least those with a path to profitability. So growth is not driving valuation anymore. This is something that we had seen in the past, but also profitability has become quite important. Okay. In terms of M&A activity, so there's been a drop in M&A activity over the past year or so. The valuations have come down, similar to what was said before. Some of these companies, unfortunately, may be running out of money. And, it's a reality that, during our calls with potential buyers, they see this as an opportunity to expand on, the geography or acquire new technologies. So, while the M&A activity has gone down, I think for the second half of this year, we see activity picking up, and we've actually been, quite busy with, some requests for proposals to launch a process over the second half or early next year. Okay, and then along the same lines, dry powder. There's still, money to be deployed right now. Not many people are deploying that capital, but they're kind of, waiting to see what's, one, to see how companies perform during a down market, right? To see if their business model is strong enough, and then two, to look at macro economic drivers, meaning interest rates and growth rates. Okay, very briefly, so here we put together a number of transactions based on some of the sectors that we cover. So you see only a couple per sector, which is consistent with the level of M&A activity that we've seen in the market. But there are companies looking to expand into the region or acquire assets. So digital agencies, this was the case of Central NIC, which acquired Aporia, which was a supplier of social media native advertising solutions, on with OR in retail SaaS, with McKinsey acquiring Iguazu for mainly their team of 70+ data and AI experts. Okay. On the MarTech front, we've seen a bit more activity, given that these technologies are could be more easily exported to other markets, primarily the US, the retail US markets. For instance, Relationship acquired Store AI, which empowers regional grocers with a unified commerce platform. Okay, and then finally on the fintech side, American Express acquired Pendle, which was basically a position to create an end-to-end B2B platform in order to make payments easier. Now, looking somewhat at the high-level numbers, so as mentioned, the funding rounds have come down. So these are funding rounds by US and European investors in Israeli startups. So you can see here a drop in value, okay, but in terms of volume, there was actually an uptick of about 8%. This uptick is primarily at the earlier stage startups, Series A or even seed. okay, which we've seen to be more resilient than later stage companies. Okay, and then finally, just so here, here's the funding activity of the Retail Innovation Club community. Again, here we see a drop in actually both value and volume, but we did have some success stories such as Trigos, Freightos, Shoppic, and Resonai funding rounds last year and early next year. Okay, well, in short, so we expect investment activity to pick up on the second half of the year, pending some of the macroeconomic trends to become clear.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos Gonzalez Flores, investment banker and strategic advisor at ComCap. Thank you very much. Thanks for filling in, of course, for Aaron Bullock, who apparently is still on flight. Last but certainly not least, we have the honor to welcome the founder of Coresight Research, Deborah Weinswig, one of the main figures in the retail tech world. Deborah is an award-winning global retail analyst and a specialist in retail innovation and technology. Her talk today is called "The Future is Now: Seizing Opportunities for Innovation in the Global Retail Market."
Great. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. And we are going to talk about a book I just published, which is already a best-selling, which I'm very honored and want to support everyone who's already purchased a book. And if you haven't, we could continue to use the help. So this was born out of the pandemic. And, many conversations I had with Ben and Oren and many of you in terms of where does startups kind of fit into the retail ecosystem, and where are we seeing individuals, kind of not only ideate, but then also kind of make that decision to kind of purchase a kind of product or solution and implement, right? Because there's many different kind of, I think there's like 7 different steps in that whole process. And, Coresight is a startup. I used to work at Profitect, which is also an Israeli tech startup, and I've, kind of been through, several other iterations as well. And so at Coresight, what we do is, we kind of look across the, kind of tech and I'd say consumer ecosystem, and really try to, make introductions that where we see, and so much of this is very nuanced, as many of you know, but is really truly around, I usually call it like cultural fit. And I think many of you will understand, but really in those cases where we get it right, even if the solution is maybe a square peg round hole, what we see is that the retailers, consumer facing companies will figure it out, right? They'll be patient. I think Joe Hickson, which I know her video is recorded today, but I think she did a great job talking about that. Nick from Tapestry and Mandeep from, Nick from Simon and Mandeep from Tapestry, right? These are all organizations where, it's not so much falling in love with the founder. It's more kind of really seeing how the two could work together. But sometimes there is that iterative process. And that really was kind of the precursor in many ways to this book, right? Which was like next gen retail. So it really is, what does retail look like in the future? Which is really not that much different than today, but how we get there is really changing. And, kind of before we really kind of dive too much into this in my kind of allotted 10 minutes, one of the things that, we've been seeing is that the focus from the retailers is twofold. And this is actually, kind of very important, because it really kind of tells us about not only how have consumers changed, but how have retailers changed? So retailers are investing more in supply chain technology, which, we heard a lot of that from Simon, and, I would call a lot of that his last mile, right? Which is supply chain. So whether it's, Drop It, Fillogic, or Happy Returns that Nick mentioned, those are all great examples. Where we're seeing a change, they are actually doing a lot more of their own kind of bigger tech. And that has been a very interesting change, and we think that will continue, and that we're at the very early stages of that. On the outsourcing of much of their supply chain, if you remember, right, there was quota, right, it was all outsourced. Then with the end of quota, they insourced all of it. But now, because of many of these technologies, right, I would say, Web3/blockchain, digital payments, and many other things on this slide, they are able to, in supply chain, outsource it again and feel very comfortable. And that, I think, is a very interesting kind of juxtaposition in terms of where retailers are investing. I would say what we're finding right now as it relates to kind of this slide, right, there's still immense curiosity, as mentioned, from many retailers today around Web3 and live streaming. Live streaming is obviously a very inexpensive, quick way to move forward with quick commerce. We're seeing some very interesting things around retail media, which is another important topic. And, I look at, kind of AI as really kind of the foundation for almost everything that's being done. So this is really the question that we see, which is, is Web3 a fad or a game changer, right? Fact or fiction? Every single retail NFT has been a screaming success. So that's fact. As it relates to blockchain, there's still a lot of pieces that are being connected, but especially in grocery, this whole idea of kind of farm to fork, and where you can trace and have understandings around recalls, it's really critical. And then also around authenticity. So now as we're moving more into a, kind of, let's call it ESG, D&I environment, and consumers are looking at resale, the ability to kind of talk about, this brand is this brand. And in some cases, actually even knowing what your resale value is tremendous. And then the first kind of part here, right, this idea around in-game experiences and collectibles. So Coresight size the gamer market in the US is 189 million people with CTA. CTA is the governing body of CES. And versus 2019, right, which is pre-pandemic, where consumers spent on average 16 hours a week, that's now 24 hours a week. So you have 189 million people in the US out of, let's call it 335 million people. So that's a lot. And, the gamers may not look like who you think they are. So, kind of making sure the preconceived notions are kind of tabled, because there's a lot of commerce that's being done there. And I think that will continue to grow. So from a Coresight perspective, we do a lot of live streaming work. We actually host our own shopping festival called 1010. And actually the co-author of this book, Renee Hartman, and we partner on that. It's been, I learn so much every year that even if that was kind of all of what we did, it would be an unbelievable experience. But we've really helped companies understand live streaming. We have seen different platforms work. Now there's I would say the platform space is somewhat crowded, and actually seeing what's working is quite interesting. The number one most important aspect here is it decreases returns by half. Now they're very high in the US, and actually we've just heard from many retailers who reported fourth quarter earnings that if we thought 40% was high, and let's call it apparel, footwear, accessories, or discretionary, it's north of 40 in the fourth quarter. And there's an ESG impact there. There is, let's just say a significant margin hit. And if there's anything that can be done, if we just look at it as reducing returns, but there's this whole idea around loyalty and personalization and building a community. And that, I think, so if you want to know, my dream is that we eventually see this kind of, we're live streaming, we're sitting with a micro factory, which actually our office in New York, if any of you guys want to visit us, we literally do sit with Lectra that acquired Gerber. We literally sit in a micro factory in Manhattan, which is kind of one of the coolest things. So, right, we live stream, we make it's personalized, and through quick commerce, and quick commerce can be many things to many people, but it can utilize drone technology, it can utilize all different kinds of technology, but it's getting the item to the consumer in 30 minutes or less. That's quick to us. And, this idea that we've seen on the grocery side where, you can literally, buy your dinner or what you're going to make for dinner on the way home, we are seeing this idea around kind of waste reduction. Many brands, so CPGs, have told us it's phenomenal as it relates to, utilizing retail media dollars. And of course, it's personalized. Social commerce is now, I'd say, meaning more. And like, we see live streaming is in here. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Temu, but we've actually been writing a lot of research on the topic. It's actually some of our highest reads right now. This is, kind of Pinduoduo. This is their, kind of group buying app for the US. If you haven't tried it, it's pretty unbelievable in terms of, I'm literally paying 1/10 of what I would to Amazon for the exact product. And I'm getting it, kind of in a more personalized manner. I've had actually like handwritten notes. It's actually it's a pretty unique experience. And I think one that will continue to grow over time. And I'm sure that some of the platforms are seeing, kind of different, different opportunities there. And, of course, I actually did an interview yesterday with somebody who was writing about a lot of these challenges right now with celebrities. And we believe that retailers and brands should use their own influencers who are their employees. And if you want to have kind of a, let's call it a celebrity or an athlete, like advisory board, just so that risk is dispersed, just in case there are any, challenges, I think that's great. But really, if you can create this channel for your employees to see themselves in the future and how they may work with your company, that is actually a, kind of a tremendous opportunity in my opinion. And, as we kind of think ahead to, retail media and to kind of other opportunities, there is significant commerce to be done. And, what we're seeing is that the future around retailing is continuing to evolve. And, that is obviously incredibly interesting as we look at, kind of the full opportunity here. And that is, of course, how we think about the future of retail and, kind of where we're going in the future. So with that and being mindful of everybody's time, I will stop sharing. And, these slides will be available. I, thank everyone very much. Please buy the book, Next Gen Retail. It is truly a look into the future, and we have amazing, each chapter actually has amazing quotes from many retailers and probably many of you on this call as well. And we are, very thankful and grateful to people like Jeff Gannett at Macy's and Brian Cornell at Target, who also endorsed the book as well. So thank you, and much to talk about, Oren. I can't wait to see you at Shop Talk and many of you as well. And, Retail Innovation Club truly brings all of us together. And they do it in such a wonderful way over the course of the year that I always feel like I have a great community here. So first of all, thanks for the invitation, and just, thanks to all of you for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deborah. And best of luck with the book. It sounds fascinating. I'll definitely want to look into that as well.
Yeah, I want to have one also.
Yeah. I want to say, I definitely want it. That wraps it up for our annual Innovator Forum 2023. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. For some final words, I give the mic back to Oren Paran and Yasmin Elad.
Thank you very much, Benny. And Deborah, thank you for everything and for your wonderful insights as always. We definitely want to read this book, and I'm sure it's going to be full of surprises. If you have 1 minute, Deborah, I would like to get your just ideas about how do you think this crisis that Ohad was speaking about in the near future, and if you think that there is certain activities that startups should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I will say we're a startup ourselves, so the crisis is real. We are seeing, I'm not sure about many of you, we are seeing things, everyone's a bit slower to pay, right? There are things that are starting to show up. So I think it's unrealistic, as I was chatting with Oren, that any of us are going to have 2 years of cash sitting around. That would be great, but let's just kind of talk turkey. But I do think that right, we at CoreSite write content for many of you to kind of put through your different channels. I think being very present, and hey, right, once again, we all have, a budget that we allocate. Showing up at certain events. And it could be, this year, for example, and one I'll just throw out there that I used to be as an analyst, I was an analyst right at Citigroup. And it's right, literally 2,000 people. It's ICR down in Orlando every January. And there was one retail tech startup, one. And you had, several hundred retail CEOs who got to know them. You also had a lot of investors who got to know them. And so I think it's great to be where everybody is, but it's also great to be where everybody isn't. And I think that kind of just being, really smart on how you're spending your time and of course your money. But I think to me, it's about going where people aren't. And like I said, this cultural fit thing is really important. And I do feel that the kind of Israeli ecosystem, right? There is a passion, there's a knowledge base, right? There is a depth of, whether it's, kind of AI, just different technology. But I think sometimes, right, what you actually know is you're like, oh, everybody already knows that. I guarantee you they don't. And when I used to work at Li & Fung, right, I would go into meetings and, right, we were doing small talk and I'd be like, so-and-so, tell them about your trip to Turkey, tell them about your trip to Cambodia, tell them, because what was very normal to them was really unique to the other side. And so I think that there is a lot about, right, how the Israeli ecosystem works, how most of you are probably not first-time founders, all of that, which you may assume is like boring, uninteresting, it is not. Everyone is really interested and excited. They want to know, and they really want to know kind of how maybe if, from a military background, what is it that makes you unique? And so when they leave a conference or when they get off the phone, they're like, gosh, that was such an interesting conversation. Yes, I know I need to invest in personalization and loyalty and retail media and AI this and AI that, but gosh, I really learned this, that, and the other on this conversation. And that, when they have a stack of business cards or they're really thinking, what makes you unique is what's going to have them pick up the phone and call, email, text, WeChat, WhatsApp, whatever. So I think that your opportunities going forward are even better. I think that you kind of, once again, I worked in an Israeli tech company and we were so focused on process. We were so on top of where we were spending. We watched every dime, and that allowed us to have more runway and in some ways outcompete others who were very caught up in just some of the challenges that we weren't. There was a focus around process that truly gave us our competitive advantage. And as someone who used to run a fund at Morgan Stanley around competitive edge, to me, Israeli startups have that in a way that I just don't even think it would be interesting, Oren, we could probably work together to put a number around that, which is what we used to do. But I would tell you your competitive edge is probably a good 3 to 5 years ahead of your closest competitors. And it's important to make sure that you talk about that in meetings in a way that retailers understand. So I think your opportunity is limitless, and it is very unique in a way that probably, Oren and I, who spent a lot of time, chatting and, kind of seeing many others in the world, it really is your, what makes you unique. And I think that, this year ahead will actually be one that's very successful for all of you. And, if Oren, myself, or Ben can help in any ways, please reach out, because it is going to be, I think, a great year. It will be more challenging. But I think what retailers can learn from you, this whole like reverse mentorship is really, you can't put a number on that, but it is incredibly valuable. So it's not even, there's nothing to wish anybody luck. It's really more fortune, because you create that yourself. And I think all of you on this call have done the work to create that. And I look forward to seeing and celebrating all your success along with Oren and Ben.
Nice. I love it. Wonderful. And great advices. And I'm sure that, at the end of the day, it's up to each one to cross this period of time in the best way you can. And we're here to help, as you said. So thank you again, Deborah, as always. We're going to see you soon at Shop Talk, so no worries. And thank you for everyone who joined us today. We're going to spread this video to the rest of the industry and for those who would like and wasn't able to reach. And thank you everyone for joining, and see you on our next Retail Innovator Forum next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.